everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, let's see the Cypress complete interview questions, okay, which are frequently asked for SDET and automation testing roles. Let's get started. Okay, what is a Cypress? Cypress most commonly refers to a popular end-to-end testing framework used by web developers to test web applications automatically. Cypress lets you open a web application in the browser, simulate the user actions like clicking, typing, and navigating to the pages, and verify that the application behaves correctly. And it helps us in running the automated tests during the development and deployment. Okay, so the types of testing Cypress supports are end-to-end testing, component testing, and API testing via HTTP requests. So what are the advantages of Cypress over Selenium? Cypress runs directly in the browser, whereas Selenium uses browser driver. Cypress is known for easier setup, whereas Selenium contains the more configuration. And Cypress is benefit for faster feedback, whereas Selenium supports more languages and browsers. Cypress is mainly with works well with JavaScript or TypeScript programming languages or the scripting languages, whereas Selenium supports multiple programming languages. The next question goes like, what are the limitations of Cypress? And on top of this, if Cypress has so many limitations, why do companies still use it? Okay, Cypress is a modern web automation framework, but it has some limitations such as lack of native multi-tab support, inability to automate native mobile or desktop applications, supports only for JavaScript or TypeScript, limited multi-browser capabilities compared to Selenium, and additional effort required for handling iframes, downloads, and complex authentication scenarios. Cypress provides an excellent developer experience, fast execution, automatic waiting, powerful debugging, easy setup, and strong support for modern web applications. For many web projects, these advantages outweigh its limitations. Despite these limitations, Cypress is widely used because of its speed and reliability. Okay, and the next set of interview questions goes like, which programming language does Cypress use? What is the Cypress architecture? Can you explain? How does Cypress work internally? What browsers are supported by Cypress? How do you install Cypress? How do you execute Cypress Trust? What is described command, it command, before each, sorry, before each hook, after hook, and after each hook? How do you organize test cases in Cypress? What is the Cypress test runner? How do you run Cypress in headless mode? How do you run specific test files? How do you locate elements in Cypress? What is sci.get method? What is sci.contains method? Okay, and difference between these two methods. And what is the recommended locator strategy in Cypress? Why should we use data test ID attributes? How do you handle dynamic elements? How do you locate multiple elements? How do you traverse through DOM elements? How do you verify the element existence? What are assertions in Cypress? What is the difference between implicit and explicit assertions? What is should method? What is and method? What is expect method? And how do you verify the text, element visibility, element attributes, and CSS properties? How do you validate URL changes? How do you perform a click on the element? How do you perform double click? How do you perform right click? How do you type the text? How do you clear text fields? How do you select drop down values? How do you handle checkboxes? How do you handle radio buttons? How do you perform drag and drop? How do you upload the files? How do you click on an element? How do you perform double click? How do you perform right click? How do you type the text? Clear the fields? How do you handle the checkboxes? How do you handle radio buttons? How do you upload the files? How do you handle synchronization? What is Cypress considered? Why is Cypress considered auto waiting? What is side dot wait? What should you avoid? When should you avoid hard waits? How do you wait for an API response? How do you wait for an element? How do you increase the timeout values? What is retry ability in Cypress? How do you handle slow loading pages? How do you debug synchronization failures? Okay, how do you perform get request, post request? How do you validate response status codes? How do you validate response bodies? How do you validate response its? How do you perform API chaining? How do you handle authentication APIs? How do you validate the JSON response? How do you measure the API response time? What are fixtures in Cypress? How do you create fixtures files? How do you load the fixture data? How do you use JSON fixture? How do you parameterize test data? How do you perform data driven testing? How do you manage large data sets? Okay, guys, similarly, you can expect more number of questions, including the framework related questions, scenario based questions, like you can see at the 30th question. The login requires OTP validation. How would you all automate it? A dynamic table changes for every execution. How would you validate it? A drop down contains 500 options. How would you validate it efficiently? An element becomes visible only after an API call. How would you handle it? Your test passes locally but fails in Jenkins. How would you troubleshoot? An API occasionally returns 500 errors. How would you handle such tests? You need to handle the same test against multiple environments. How would you design it? A page contains infinite scrolling. How would you automate it? Multiple users execute tests simultaneously. How should you avoid conflicts? A test randomly fails due to the timing issues. How would you stabilize? Can you explain your Cypress framework? How did you reduce the test execution time? How do you handle flaky tests? How do you integrate API and UI validations into a single test? Can you explain the difficult bug you identified while working with Cypress? Okay, so there are many questions. I have given answers for all these questions in the interview preparation kit. So please go through. It contains end-to-end interview questions along with detailed answers. Okay, and also it contains company-wise interview questions. Okay, it's really helpful for clearing the interview. Please do check out. So thank you so much for watching my video. All the best for your upcoming interview. Stay tuned for more updates. Happy learning, happy testing. Okay. And finally, yeah, so this is the ultimate full stack QA automation interview master kit. I have specified this link in the description and also in the comment section. Okay, it has been designed for 0 to 15 plus years of experienced candidates, and it covers the actual questions asked in almost all the top companies, and it has been crafted after taking 3500 plus automation interviews. Okay, it has been built from 13 plus years of real IT industry experience. So please do check out and let me know if you have any queries or questions. Thank you for watching my video. All the best for your upcoming interview.